Sovereign stable.
Partnerships.
Ownership.
Winning.
Sovereign stable.
The anticipation.
The excitement.
The thrill.
Top-level racing.
Sovereign stable.
Join us in the morning on the backstretch of Saratoga Racecourse to experience the magic of thoroughbred ownership. Call 866-329-2WIN to meet trainers, jockeys, and watch sovereign horses on the track.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
49er leads by a neck. Dynaformer on the outside, second to by 2. Brian's time has moved up on the inside of Evening Chris, seeking the gold, remains on the rail. There at the top of the stretch. The mile 37-4. 49er has the lead on the outside. Here comes Brian's time farther out. Evening Chris on the rail is seeking the gold. They're at the 8th pole. 49er leads clearly by 2. Seeking the gold, moves into second on the outside. Brian's time seeking the gold. Gaining ground on the outside of 49er. Loose straight past 16th pole. It's seeking the gold and 49er to the wire. Seeking the gold and 49er on the inside.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Down the Stretch. I'm Mark Asano. On this Travers Day edition of the program, 4 very special guests, beginning in just a moment with Mr. Shug McGaughey, who will saddle Derby hero Orb for the Travers. He will be followed by Mr. Kieran McLaughlin, who's got a fascinating long shot in Transparent. Up next will be the man who's got the 2 morning line favorites for this afternoon's Midsummer Derby and Todd Pletcher. And finally, Hall of Famer Jerry Hollendorfer, who has a filly that I like very much in this afternoon's test in Sweet Lulu. So all of that and much, much more if you stay with us for this, our August 24th edition of the program, which is being sponsored by Parting Glass Racing, Saratoga's original racing partnership. They've got Kid Blast in this afternoon's 4th, and Chrissy Girl as an also eligible in the 14th. Visit them on the web at partingglassracing.com and by Embrace the Race, the apparel for the horse racing lifestyle, available at the Museum of Racing, at their new store at 12 Circular Street, right here in Saratoga, and online at embracetherace.com. Again, good morning. Happy Travers Day on an absolutely gorgeous summer Saturday here in Saratoga. And our first guest, and we are very pleased that he's able to rejoin us this week as he brings back Kentucky Derby hero Orb for this afternoon's Travers. We welcome back to Down the Stretch, Mr. Shug McGaughey. Shug, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Mark.
Nice to have you. Big question right off the bat. You've got Joel Rosario named to ride Orb. What's his status?
Well, obviously, we're very hopeful that we're going to have Joel, but I talked to Ron, his agent, called me last night after they'd taken x-rays. He had a slight problem with his foot, and they were going to ice it during the night and then reevaluate it this morning at 8:45, and I have not heard from him since then, but hopefully he'll be fine.
Do you have a backup plan at this point?
I don't have a backup rider. Obviously, I've got some in my mind, but I don't have anybody. You know, when I get word if I find out that he's not going to ride, then I'll get with Mr. Janney and Mr. Phipps and try to feel out who they seem to be most comfortable with, and we'll go that way.
Is Orb the type of colt who can be? Does he have idiosyncrasies? Is it important to have ridden him in the past?
I don't think so, because Johnny rode him for the first time in the Fountain of Youth and did a pretty good job on him. He won, so I think that I can probably get through to him, to whoever rides him, kind of what I think needs to be done, and any little idiosyncrasies that he does have, which are not anything big deal.
All right, I'd like to take you and the audience back to the Kentucky Derby. Orb rolling down the center of the track to win. Shug, tell our audience what this meant to you personally and professionally.
Well, you know, it was something that I dreamed of for years and years and years. I always felt like there was one out there with my name on it. I thought I had a big chance when I went there with Easy Gore early in my training career, career especially with the Phippses, and it didn't happen over the same kind of track you're watching there. So I really felt like that it was a huge accomplishment for me to win the Derby, and you know, personally, it's you know, people are always congratulating you for the Derby. You know, every time I come through here, and really on that day, as you can see on that TV, I was a bit stunned when it did happen. So I think the more that it goes along now, the more that it does mean to me, and I think that as I go along in my life, that it's going to mean more and more that we did have the opportunity to win the Derby, and you know, I hope I'm not done yet.
You've won countless major races in your Hall of Fame career, but it really was different to win the Derby?
Yeah, it was different. It was a feeling like I never really had before, and I still got that same feeling. You know, it was an emotional time for me, and you know, the feeling is still way, way up there.
That's right.
And I think it'll always stay way, way up there. And I remember my youngest son was at Churchill the next week, and kind of tongue-in-cheek, I asked him, I said, "Is Orb sign still up there?" And he goes, "I think it'll be up there till there's no more Churchill down."
That's
so,
right.
You know, it's a pretty long-lasting memory, and it's something that means an awfully lot to me, and I'm sure to anybody else that's won it too.
That's great. Now, following the emotional big victory in the Derby, the Preakness and the Belmont disappointing. In retrospect, did the Derby take more out of Orb than you originally thought?
Mark, I really don't think so. I mean, I think he was fine. We got him back up to Belmont on Sunday after the Derby, and he went right back into his stall. And I think he was pretty content with what he was doing. He had a nice work on the Monday before we went down there. He got down there in good order. I think the one post is what killed him. We got down in there. I misjudged the race. I thought there would be a lot of pace in the race, and there wasn't. There were, you know, they went slow. So when they went slow, the horses were all bunched up. We're hung down on the inside. I think the inside rail was deep and kind of cuppy, and I don't think he handled it.
Following the Belmont, you sent him to Fair Hill in Maryland for a freshening. I don't ever remember you using Fair Hill in the past. Talk about that.
Well, you're right about that. It was during Belmont week. I was just trying to figure out. I wanted to get him away from the racetrack, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with him, and whether it was going to be here or down there. And you know, my one concern up here was 750 horses training on Oklahoma's track, a lot of 2-year-olds, and so I called Bruce Jackson, who I was familiar with, that's got a equine therapy type unit down there, and he takes, you know, a lot of horses. He's got, you know, horses there for Grand Motion, Bill Mott, had for myself. Shepard's got horses there, Terra Nova. And he's got some therapy unit stuff there. And I called him on Sunday morning. I just said, "Bruce, guide me." And he said, "Well, we're doing this with quite a few horses now, and you know, we think we've had good results." And so I said, "Well, let me think about it." When I called him back and told him this is what I decided to do, he gave me even more of encouragement. He said, "Well, I think you're going to like what you see." And I'd never been there. And so I sent him down there. I was going to leave him there for 2 weeks, and I called him on the Thursday before the 2 weeks were over on Sunday. I said, "Now, what are we going to do now, Bruce?" And he said, "Shug," he said, "I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but he said, I think this horse is doing so well that, you know, I wouldn't be in any hurry taking him out of there." So I ended up going down there that weekend, and I could kind of see with the facilities, with his therapy units that he had there, and kind of the way his people were treating him, and the way, you know, that as happy as he seemed to be, and you know, I decided to leave him there.
Has it made a significant difference with Orb?
Well, I think something has. You know, whether he would have made that much, you know, advancement just being at Belmont Park or here, I don't know. But I think he came up here. I think he put on muscle weight. I think he's fresh. I think he's enjoying what he's doing very much now. And so, yes, I think the experiment and that part of it worked, and we'll find out more this afternoon.
How's he been training up to this afternoon's race?
All of his works down there were very good. I was there for almost every one of them. I did miss one. His last work that I was there before we brought him up here was excellent. I thought, he got out of it what I would want. I thought he was sharp in what he was doing, and I thought that he got up here in good order, and I thought his blowout here on Monday was excellent.
Hasn't raced in 11 weeks. Got to go 1.25 miles over a track which is deeper than a lot of people realize. Any concerns? Is he fit enough off 11 weeks on the sidelines?
Well, yes, I sure think so. I don't think fitness or mental state's going to be a problem. We'll have to see whether he's going to match up to the Verrazano today and Palace Malice and some of the others that are in there. But I think that you'll see a very good horse run this afternoon.
Thoughts on post 2?
I'm not concerned about it. I mean, if you asked me, do you want the 2 or the 5 out, I'd have said the 5 out, but we got the 2. On paper, there looks like there's going to be some pace, especially with Marino in there. And hopefully Joel or whoever else is on him will be able to get him where we want him and, have a shot, at those horses when the running starts. I think in the Belmont that from where we were, I don't think we had a shot. I think that to make up that much ground at Belmont Park going 1.5 miles is just very, very difficult to do. I thought he made a win and run from like the 5/8 pole to the quarter pole, but was kind of spent after that. I mean, I know he went the first half in 48 and some change, and he went the next quarter in 22 and change. And that's difficult for a horse to do, and I thought he was a bit spent from that effort.
You're also going to be running Hungry Island in this afternoon's Ballston Spa as we watch her rally for second in last year's Ballston Spa. She's in the red cap. Shug, first 2 races this year, very solid. But her last start, she looked a little flat. What happened?
Well, she's a very, very difficult filly to train. She's got some really good races. I mean, this was one of them here. I think they said a track record or equal to stakes record or something. And I think it was, the filly that won it, I think came back and won the Breeders' Cup.
Yes, absolutely.
So I thought that was a good effort. Her race at Keeneland was very good. Her race at Churchill was very good. I thought maybe Javier moved on her a little bit early at Louisville, and she hung just a little bit, but a very good filly beat her in Stephanie's Kitten.
Right.
And so, the turf came up soft that day, which usually doesn't matter to her, but I told Garrett that I thought that the outside would probably be better. The inside I thought maybe was a little bit deep. Well, the winner came through on the inside and won, and we were on the outside, and I don't think she ran quite up to her capabilities, and so we'll be interested to see what happens today. She's fresh, she's trained good. I think this is, I don't think Stephanie Kitten's in here.
Right.
Well, the gray filly that beat her a time or two that Jimmy Toner had, and so I'm going to be interested to see her run this afternoon.
Well, Shug, as always, we appreciate your time very much. Thank you so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch. And we want to say thank you once again by giving you this $100 gift certificate to Jacob and Anthony's American Grill, 38 High Rock Avenue, right here in downtown Saratoga Springs. You and Allison can go for lunch or dinner. Please enjoy it on us, and good luck this afternoon with Orb in the big one, with Hungry Island, and we'll look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Okay, Mark,
Thank you, Shug. Shug McGahee, ladies and gentlemen. And we are up to our first break on this August 24th edition of the program. When we return, Mr. Kieran McLaughlin, as we go to the break, during this morning's Open, Shug got beat in a photo in the 1988 Travers as 49er just held off seeking the gold. Well, this time, Shug's going to win a Travers photo 10 years later. So we'll take a look at a piece of the 98 Travers to the break. Back with Karen McLaughlin right after these messages.
48 and 4/5 seconds for the opening half mile in this Travers Stakes, and the pace has been pretty easy so far for Dice Dancer. Grand Slam right there, and Jerry Bailey is giving him a nudge as they approach the half-mile pole. Coronado's Quest looms boldly just outside the lead, running along in third position as they pass the half-mile pole. Then Deputy Diamond, Victory Gallop, and Alice Solis is asking him for run, and around the far turn they go here at Saratoga, and with a flourish there goes Coronado's Quest. Coronado's Quest has made his move 3 furlongs from the line, and he's in front by a neck. Grand Slam is second, and Victory Gallop is gathering momentum as the field turns for home. Coronado's Quest racing for the challenges to come. Grand Slam is there. Victory Gallop is moving to him with the furlong to go. At the 8th pole, it is Coronado's Quest by 2. Victory Gallop second, Grand Slam third, Raffy's Majesty is fourth. Smith all over Coronado's Quest. A final surge from Victory Gallop as they come to the line. Raffy's Majesty closing with the rush. Photo finish. Coronado's Quest, Victory Gallop, and Raffy's Majesty. 3 noses on the line in a dramatic renewal of the Travers.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Embrace the tradition. Embrace the passion. Embrace the race. Apparel for the horse racing lifestyle.
Sovereign Stable. Partnerships.
Ownership.
Winning.
Sovereign Stable.
The anticipation.
The excitement.
The thrill.
Top level racing.
Sovereign Stable.
Join us in the morning on the backstretch of Saratoga Racecourse to experience the magic of thoroughbred ownership. Call 866-329-2WIN to meet trainers, jockeys, and watch sovereign horses on the track.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Asano. My thanks once again to Shug McGahee for having joined us. Hope you enjoyed watching Coronado's Quest hold off Victory Gallop and Raffy's Majesty in the 98 Travers. Our next guest has had a heck of a week. In fact, when I just shook his hand, it burned. Winning 5 races over the last 3 days on grass. This afternoon, he's going to try to upset the Travers with Transparent. We welcome back to Down the Stretch, Mr. Kieran McLaughlin. Kieran, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on a heck of a run. 5 grass wins in 3 days.
Yes, we're on a roll. Everything's gone perfect for us. And it's nice to get these kind of surprises. Often the surprises are when you like a horse and they don't run well. But some of them, when you don't love them and they win, it's been great.
Well, I want to take you and the audience back to take a look at one of those victories. This coming in the Dance of Life Stakes from Wednesday. You're in front with Sayad, who, which loosely translated means, at least this day, runs like lure. Talk about this huge performance.
We were very happy with his training. We actually entered him with a part of entry Farhan a few days earlier, and we ran Farhan and scratched him because he's only 3 and this was an overnight stake there for him. And Farhan won by a nose off a year layoff, and then he came backside and just had a great trip, was full of run, uncontested lead, but he ran a very surprisingly good race. We liked him, but we didn't think we would see a tick off the track record. So we're very pleased with his run.
133.77. He had shown some nice efforts on grass, but nothing like this.
No, exactly. Like I said, we were surprised he ran this well, and pleased also, because he is a nice horse. He was second last time at Belmont.
Well, that was terrific, and congratulations on your absolutely great run. Now, let's talk Transparent. He looked very good winning an entry-level allowance race back on April 4th. Then we didn't see him again for 16 weeks. What happened?
What didn't happen, we had a lot of issues, mainly feet issues and just a few, soundness things that were minor, but bad timing. Every time we were pointing for a race, we had little troubles. And finally, we got everything together the last week or two before the Curlin and glued on all 4 shoes, which is very unusual. We've never glued on hind shoes except to one other horse many years ago. We felt like he was sensitive to the nails.
Okay.
And he ran huge, and he had a lot of gaps in his works also. Right. So we were very pleased with this race, other than Irad's tiny error. But
you're being kind.
Well, it really was that close to clip heels. So he rides the horse very well. Yeah. Obviously, he rides him back today. But since the Curlin, he's had 2 half miles like we wanted and planned on, and it was a true prep race, the Curlin, so we're looking for him to run a big race.
Well, we are going to take a look at the Curlin, folks. Remember, this is off a 16-week layoff. In the Curlin, Transparent is #1. Karen, I like the fact that he raced in traffic for much of the first 3 quarters of this race, but still, when Irad asked him to go, he responded nicely.
Yes, he did. He understands the horse and has learned a lot about him and likes him a lot. And he switches off for him now, and he has confidence in him. So he's looking forward to today's race also, and hopefully we can get him covered up. There's plenty of pace in the race, but we're out in the clear. Here we were down inside, so we need to get him over and get a little dirt in his face and settle. But Irad's been going great lately. He's winning a lot of races also, and he loves his horse, so he'll work it out.
Now, you touched upon the workout pattern for Transparent leading into the Curlin, but let's get a little more specific. He was away a month off the work tab between early June and early July. What happened?
Well, we were just struggling with little things with him, and then he had a cough, and we had to treat him, and so there was a lot of little things, but that's why it was so impressive for him to run like this, because that's his true work tab. He had missed a month, but he was training every day. It's just that he didn't work. So here he angles out and just angles out a little bit, too soon, or he caused Steve Asmussen's horse to clip heels, and it was unfortunate. But he finished a strong, full of run, and we feel like he's fit enough to go the 1.25 miles, wants the 1.25 miles, and he's ready to go with an uninterrupted training pattern.
So aside from the DQ, considering the 16 weeks off, considering the month between workouts, was that as good as you could expect in there?
Yes, it was. It was a great performance, and he and I might have underestimated the horse a little bit, but he's really doing well, and we could have run the Jim Dandy the next day, but we thought we'd take the conservative route.
All right, he's got to move forward big time today. Is he capable of doing that?
We feel like he is. I mean, obviously, it's as tough a Travers as I can recall, and we do need to come forward, but hopefully we do.
I think I know the answer to this next question, but would you take another dead heat?
Yes, we would. We would be happy to take a dead heat.
In today's second race, a maiden contest, you run Celebrated Talent, another son of Bernardini, looking to break his maiden off a good solid second here in last. And he's drawn outside today. How's he doing?
Correct. He's doing very well. Unlucky last time to be down inside. We weren't inside, but we were down the backside, and Cornelio had to keep asking him to stay up there with the other horse, and they opened up quite a few lengths on the rest of the field. But we finished second. He's trained great since then. We think he will run well. Obviously, Todd Pletcher is the one to beat, as he is in every race. But nice horse. I think he was second to Normandy Invasion in his only start and time off. So hopefully we'll continue our hot streak.
Yeah, Todd's not the guy to beat in every race. Kieran McLaughlin's the guy to beat this week on grass, that's for sure. Kieran, as always, we thank you so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch. We appreciate it, and we want to say thank you by giving you this $100 gift certificate for lunch or dinner at Jacob and Anthony's American Grill, 38 High Rock Avenue, right here in downtown Saratoga. Go there at your convenience for lunch or dinner and enjoy it on us.
And thanks for doing such a good job for horse racing.
Thank
Mark.
you. I appreciate it. Good luck with Transparent this afternoon.
you.
We'll see you in the paddock. Karen McLaughlin, ladies and gentlemen, on one heck of a roll. All right, our next guest is enjoying another outstanding Saratoga meet. He currently stands atop the trainer standings, and he will be saddling the two morning line choices for this afternoon's Midsummer Derby in Verrazano and Palace Malice. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Todd Pletcher. Todd, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you. Okay, as we tape on Thursday morning, 29 wins. You're atop the trainer standings, 9 ahead of your nearest competitor, Chad Brown. Numerous stakes wins. Assess the meet thus far.
Very, very pleased. I think the meet's gone extremely well for us. Had some good 2-year-olds run. Been fortunate in the stakes, and so you know, anytime you can come into Saratoga and be successful, you have to be happy.
Let's talk about a couple of those stakes victories in particular, beginning with last Saturday's Alabama, won by Schenectady native Ed Stanko's Princess of Sylmar. Talk about the effort.
Well, she'd trained unbelievably well after the coaching club, and we were very confident coming in, which almost makes you more nervous because it just felt like you know, it was her race to lose, and having never won the Alabama before was sort of hanging over our heads. And it's a race that I've always wanted to win, and a race that I appreciate how hard it is to win. So just felt like, you know, hopefully everything goes according to plan. We get a good trip because I feel like we've got the best horse, and hopefully we can execute it properly. And she did. She rated beautifully. We got a great trip right behind the speed, and Javier asked her in the middle of the turn, and she kind of put the race away in a matter of strides. And so it was one of those rare occasions when you can kind of just enjoy the race the last quarter of a mile, and it was a lot of fun. And I know that the entire Stanko family and that whole group is having a great time with it.
Yeah, that was very emotional for Ed. How did she come out of the race? And the big question, will she race again this year?
She came out of the race really well, and I spoke to Ed earlier in the week, and we do plan to run her again this year, assuming that she trains the way she is at the moment. Question we have is whether that's going to be in the Cotillion at Parks on the 21st or possibly in the Beldame. Pros and cons to both. So, you know, like always, we'll just sit back and watch the filly train and let her kind of guide us in the right direction.
She's not nominated to the Breeders' Cup. Ed said last week he wasn't thinking about Breeders' Cup. Any change in that at this point?
No, we both agreed that this won't be the year for her to run in the Breeders' Cup, and her not being nominated makes it a little bit of an easier decision. But, you know, hopefully next year maybe she'll be back for the Breeders' Cup, and who knows, Ed might decide to keep her in training as a 5-year-old. You know, all that remains to be seen. But knock on wood, she's been an extremely healthy and professional filly, and so we want to not get greedy this year and think about next year as well.
The other stakes I want to talk to Todd about was the Whitney. Todd, they've been running the Whitney for 86 years. Cross Traffic went wire to wire that day and accomplished something I don't know the last time it's happened or if it's ever happened. He won the Whitney in his 9-furlong debut and his 2-turn debut. That is saying an awful lot about a racehorse.
He's a seriously talented horse. To break your maiden as a 4-year-old early in the year, excuse me, and then get all the way to the Whitney, it's unheard of. You just never see that. I don't think we've ever had a horse lose 2 closer, more difficult defeats than his Westchester and Met Mile. They were just brutal losses for a horse that ran exceptionally well. So it was really great to see him get that much-deserved Grade 1 win in the Whitney, and to beat the field of horses that he did and do it the way he did was pretty special.
How did he come out of the Whitney, and as we're a week or so in front of the Woodward, will he go to the Woodward?
We're thinking strongly about it. mainly because he came out of the Whitney so well. He's to me, training actually as good or better than he did going into the Whitney. His energy level's been very good. He's moving well. He had a good breeze already. He'll have another breeze this Sunday. The thing that we're trying to balance out and figure out is what gets us to the Breeders' Cup the best way. And does running in the Woodward put us there, or does possibly waiting for the Jockey Club and then getting 5 weeks after the Jockey Club back to the Breeders' Cup? So it's a tough call, like these things are a lot of times, and I think we'll just have to wait and see how the horse is behaving and how he trains, and let him tell us. But the Woodward's coming up at this point to be an unbelievably competitive race.
It certainly is. All right, let's talk Travers. Let's begin with Verrazano. Other than the Kentucky Derby, dead, solid, perfect. Talk about that colt.
He's a horse that's impressed us a great deal from before he ran first time out, and in all of his races he's been exceptionally good, with the exception of the Kentucky Derby, which is unfortunate. In the biggest race of the year, that the racetrack came up sloppy. He didn't handle it well at all, and unfortunately they only run it once. So the good news is he came out of it really well. He's gotten better and better. I think his Pegasus was a good race, and the Haskell, I think, was the strongest race we've seen a 3-year-old run this year.
Yeah, well, as our audience takes a look at a piece of the Haskell, it is so unusual for the Haskell to be run 3 full seconds slower than the Jim Dandy, but it was a very unusual Monmouth Strip that day, wasn't it?
It was incredibly slow racetrack, and there's some very good horses that ran on the undercard that showed us how slow it was, and honestly I was very, very concerned about it. It was appeared to be in good condition. There was, it was watered properly and it looked good. It was just slow, and so anytime you have a horse run as impressively as he did and the time be that slow and get a 1:16 buyer figure, I think it just indicates how slow it was. The good news to me is if he's able to do that on that type of a racetrack at 1 1/8 miles, it gives me added confidence that the 1.25 miles won't be an issue.
You chose the New Jersey route for him after freshening him, and we know that most of the time Monmouth is a track that helps carry speed. Why did you choose the Jersey route for him?
Honestly, the main reason is the Let's Go stable guys, Jim Scatorcio, Brian Sullivan, Kevin Scatorcio, and a lot of the partners on Verrazano are basically Monmouth Park people. They all live within minutes of Monmouth Park, and for anyone that grew up in that area that's been going to Monmouth for years, the Haskell's the race there. So it was sort of an easy decision. I like the timing of the Pegasus as a prep for it. It gave us 6 weeks after the Derby to freshen him up a little bit. Also gave us 6 weeks to the Haskell, which I like that spacing, and put us in a position to hopefully come back in the Travers. So it was sort of a no-brainer at that point, and just, it was a common sense thing to do.
He was, I remember one of our early discussions about him this winter in Florida. He was quite a physical specimen early on. Take a moment to describe him physically, and has he changed much in the last several months?
The amazing thing about him is that he's gone through the Triple Crown Prep Series, run in the Derby, run twice since the Derby, and his overall condition is unbelievable. He's a good-sized horse. I think anybody that gets to see him in the paddock in the Travers will appreciate this is what a good-looking horse looks like. I mean, he's a big striking horse with a great coat and dappled out, and just has held his condition really well. He's a real physical specimen.
How'd he come out of the Haskell? How's he been training? I know you worked him in company. Is that normal for him to work in company?
He always does. He's actually a little bit of a lazy horse to train in the mornings. He doesn't overdo his gallops. He's sort of he's push button. He's easy to ride. We just want to make sure that when we do breeze him, that we get a proper breeze, and it seems like a workmate just keeps him focused. And I thought we got 2 very good breezes with him. Seems to me like he's held his condition and form really well since the Haskell. I think he's every bit as good coming into the Travers as he was to those races.
All right, let's move on to Palace Malice, a late foal who seemingly has really blossomed since the Belmont.
He really has. I think part of that is being a May foal, and I think part of it is he's finally figured out the game a little bit. We put the blinkers on in the Derby because he made some mistakes in the Risen Star. He went back to his left lead late in the game. Thought it might have cost him that race. Garrett Gomez, when he rode him in the Bluegrass, felt like he looked at some marks on the poly track and went back to his left lead late, and he felt like that lost his momentum and cost him the Bluegrass. So, you know, it wasn't something that we did flippantly, putting the blinkers on for the Derby. Seemed to backfire on the day when the track was sloppy, and Mike kind of asked him to leave the gate, and there was no getting him back. But for whatever reason, after that, he's been a more focused, more disciplined kind of horse, and I think he's learned in his last 2 races how to actually finish and put a race away. And so the Belmont was huge. It was also very important for us to see him come back and duplicate that kind of effort in the Jim Dandy, and I think he did, or arguably even better.
Since the Belmont, and here in the Jim Dandy as well, it seems as though he's been using his natural high cruising speed and his ability to get a route of ground more so than in the earlier races. Is that a complete change of strategy, or is it the maturation process kicking in?
I think it's maturity on his part. To be honest with you, the thing that surprised me the most is when we stretched him out in the Risen Star. I fully anticipated he would be a prominent pace figure, and in both the Risen Star and the Louisiana Derby, he was well off the pace, and it didn't make sense to me for a horse that had shown speed at 5, 6.5, was right on the pace going 7 in his first race back this year. I thought when we went long, he'd be into his high cruising speed, stalking the pace, or even possibly on the lead, and that was going to be his strength. So another reason why we could, we put the blinkers on. But now he's running the type of races that we expected him to. He's got a great cruising speed. He's able to put himself in a good position and just kind of keep going.
How good was this Jim Dandy? I mean, he prompted Moreno every step of the way. Todd, it's been a long time since a Belmont winner came back to win the Jim Dandy. It was Conquistador Cielo a very long time ago. That was quite an accomplishment.
I think it was, and we were pretty confident going in that he was training extremely well, that he took the Belmont unbelievably well. I ended up breezing him back, I think, 15 days after the Belmont, just because his energy level was so good and he'd bounced out of it so well, and to be able to train him exactly how we wanted to leading up to the Jim Dandy, and I think that has continued to improve him, and he's just gotten bigger and better and stronger. And the great thing about both of these colts is it's rare you get to go through the series of races that they've been through, and then in the middle of August say, wow, I've still got a lot of horse left, and hopefully that's the case.
All right, with Palace Malice, how did he come out of the Jim Dandy? How's he been training up to the Travers?
I think his 2 works after the Jim Dandy have been perfect. We have a very fit horse, having run 1.5 miles and 1.1 1/8. The 1.25 miles is not a concern. So with that case, we're just trying to keep him in the same form for 28 days, and I think we've been able to do that. I think he's coming up to it really well.
Now, it's kind of interesting. You've got 2 colts for 2 different owners who have similar running styles. How do you keep them from compromising each other's chances while giving each one of them their best individual chance to win?
Well, I think that's the most important thing. You have to talk to John Velasquez separately. This is what we need to do for Verrazano to win. Then you talk to Mike Smith separately. This is what we think you need to do to have Palace Malice win. And then those guys are going to be out there on their own after that. And, both horses do have similar running styles. Both horses are rateable and tractable, and I think it's going to be a rider's race.
Here's what I'd like you to tell the audience at this point. We've got Verrazano in post 3. We've got Moreno the Speed in post 6. We've got Palace Malice drawn outside of him in post 8. Take us through how you see just the first quarter mile. Everybody breaks well. You run under the line the first time going into that first turn. With Verrazano inside of the other speed, what's that first quarter mile going to look like for your colts?
Well, I think the most likely scenario is Moreno will be on the lead. Palace Malice will be stalking him as he did in the Jim Dandy. And Verrazano will probably be laying right off of those 2. Hopefully Johnny's able to maneuver himself into the middle of the track a little bit and put himself in a nice spot where he's not pinned in on the rail. But Verrazano's an exceptionally good gate horse. He always breaks really well. So, I think because of that, the flow of the race is going to have to be going a little bit. It's if they go 24-48, Verrazano's going to be right on top of him. If they spread it out a little bit, then he might fall into that seam behind. Again, rider's race, and good thing is we got John Velasquez and Mike Smith, two guys that know how to deliver on a big stage.
All right, let's take a look quickly at a couple of your undercard starters, beginning with 40 Tails, a pure one-run closing sprinter who goes in the King's Bishop, won the Amsterdam here over the track and last. How's he doing?
Horse is doing great. Thought he breezed really well here on Sunday. He's a really cool horse. He's not the biggest horse, but he's a very tough horse. He's a fighter. He seems to have really found his niche in these one-turn races coming from off the pace. Biggest concern is 14-horse field. He's going to drop back. He's at some point going to have to probably pass 8, 9, 10 horses and find his way through. So Joel Rosario's gotten along with him really well in his 3 races. I think he has a real clear idea of how he wants to ride him and how he needs to be ridden. So we'll just, like everyone else in a 14-horse field, hope for some racing luck.
Todd, I know he won the Woody Stevens at 7/8, but is he at his best? Is his closing kick at 7/8 as strong as it might be at 3/4 or 6.5?
I think it is. Actually, his Derby trial at a mile was a pretty good effort as well, and the Woody Stevens was a great setup for him. Really finished well. I would tend to think 7 would be his absolute best distance, unless they were going 6 and they just really flew early.
You're going to turn back, overanalyze from the West Virginia Derby to the King's Bishop. Talk about that.
Well, he broke his maiden first time out going 5 furlongs here at Saratoga last year, and he was able to win the Futurity at 6 or 6.5. We're just trying to find him again, and he's training as well as he ever has. We were disappointed in his West Virginia race. Rosie Napravnik rode him that day, and she didn't feel like he handled what she would consider to be a little bit of a peculiar surface there. But, we know he's a good horse from winning the Futurity and the Remsen and the Arkansas Derby. We're just hoping maybe that the cutback will renew his enthusiasm a little bit.
You got him surrounded in the King's Bishop. You got Capo Bastoni in there as well. How's he doing?
Horse is training exceptionally well, and that's why we're in here. He breezed in company with Verrazano last Sunday and breezed really well. He's a horse that's shown with his 2nd in the Derby trial, 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, that he's capable of big performances. Feel like he's in good form, and now's the time to take a shot at it.
And finally, your fellow Travers, one of your fellow Travers trainers, the quiet, soft-spoken, reserved Eric Guillot, has a voodoo doll of you. What are your thoughts about Mr. Guillot?
Eric and I have a good time. He's, like you said, a soft-spoken kind of guy that not opinionated at all. I did what I think any normal person would do in this scenario when you find out that someone has a voodoo doll. As I went to Google and I researched how to reverse a voodoo curse, and there was about actually 11,000 different searches for it. So hopefully that took care of it.
You know, he was on the show earlier at the meet as one of the guests, and he used a phrase which, in all the years we've been doing interviews, I don't believe you've ever used this phrase. He said, "I'm not bringing a one-legged chicken to a rooster race."
No, I haven't heard that one.
So, well, listen, we thank you as always for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch, and we would like to say thank you by giving you this $100 gift certificate to Jacob and Anthony's American Grill, 38 High Rock Avenue, right here in downtown Saratoga. For lunch or dinner, please go and enjoy it on us.
I will. I enjoy that place.
And all the best later this afternoon in the Travers and the King's Bishop and for the rest of the meet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Todd Pletcher, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much to Todd Pletcher for having joined us, and Shug McGahee just got back to us with word on Joel Rosario, whose foot is in a cast. Joel will be out for about 6 weeks. Obviously, Joel will not be riding Orb this afternoon. Shug will be talking to Mr. Janney and Mr. Phipps and decide on a replacement for Joel Rosario, who also loses the mount on Game On Dude tomorrow. A couple of things before we go to the last break. Last Saturday was a great day for a pair of area natives. Ed Stanko, the Schenectady native who graduated from my high school, the former Linton High School, captured the Alabama with Princess of Sylmar. Congratulations to Ed on that wonderful victory. And Mechanicville native Chad Brown also had a wonderful Saturday, winning the Sword Dancer here at Saratoga with Big Blue Kitten, then capturing the Arlington Million via disqualification with Real Solution. Both Ed and Chad were guests on last week's show. And also, congratulations to Delmar residents Mike and Lynn Shanley, who ran second in the Grade 1 Secretariat with Stormy Lynn. So a terrific Saturday for local folks. And we are up to our final break on this August 24th edition of the program. When we return, Mr. Jerry Hollendorfer. Back with Jerry right after these messages.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Parting Glass Racing, Saratoga's original racing partnership, can make your dreams come true.
When I buy a horse, I'm like a kid on Christmas morning. Every time I bring people around to the backstretch, they leave with this thing like, wow, how do I do it? How do I get involved?
It's easy to get involved, and there's never been a better time to own your own racehorse for a fraction of the cost. Call 877-RACE-WIN, 877-722-3946, or visit partingglassracing.com.
Sovereign Stable.
Partnerships.
Ownership.
Winning.
Sovereign Stable.
The anticipation.
The excitement.
The thrill.
Top level racing.
Sovereign Stable.
Join us in the morning on the backstretch of Saratoga Racecourse to experience the magic of thoroughbred ownership. Call 866-329-2WIN to meet trainers, jockeys, and watch sovereign horses on the track.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Asano. Our final guest this morning, and I'm really glad he was able to join us because he's got a filly I really like in this afternoon's test stakes. She's making her stakes debut. The filly is Sweet Lulu. Her trainer, Mr. Jerry Hollendorfer. Jerry, welcome back to Down the Stretch.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Nice to have you as always. Okay, I want to take you and our audience back to Sweet Lulu's career debut on May 30th. For our audience, she is number 2, breaking from the rail. And she's going to break awkwardly in here and proceed to romp. Talk about Sweet Lulu's debut.
Just a little bit. I wasn't real happy with the way she broke, but she recovered quickly, and as you can see, coming up the rail, and she's going to get lucky and get a good spot to get out.
Jerry, so often when inexperienced horses break that poorly in their debut and they rush, you know, they're going to flatten out. She did anything but flatten out.
Well, he didn't really rush her that hard. You know, he put her up there where she could have a chance to get clear. Now he's going to come to a spot where he can get out and get a good run at them.
Now, she was the 1-2 favorite in here, so the bettors expected her to run well. What did you expect out of her in her debut? How well had she been training?
Well, she had always been training well. I had to give her some time off earlier on in her career, but I always liked her, and she always worked well, and she was marked to be a good one from the very beginning, so I had a lot of confidence in her all the time.
The time off you had to give her earlier in her career, that was due to what?
Just a hind-end problem where she was sore behind, and so we just gave her plenty of time, and she came back and came out of that real well.
Well, we're going to put a shot of her on the screen in a moment. Take a moment to describe her from a physical standpoint for our audience.
Well, she's big and tall and wide and makes a nice seat for any rider, so I think they like sitting on her. And she's very well proportioned, so you know, when we bought her as a yearling, we gave some money for her, so she was good looking then too, and she looks a lot better now.
How about mentally? How's she take to her training? Mentally, what's she like?
Well, really good. You know, you never know until you put them on the plane and bring them somewhere if they're going to handle that kind of thing. But she's done that very well. I did take her over to the paddock and school her 2 times, but she really probably didn't need it. Just handling everything fine. So we'll see how she handles things in the race.
So how'd she handle the shipping? How's she acclimated?
Good. Very good.
She handled the paddock situation well?
Very well.
Well, following that debut, she dusted an entry-level allowance field, but then she faced tougher company in an optional claimer, non-winners 2 other than, going a mile at Del Mar. For our audience, she is number 3 in here. Jerry, she was facing, among others, Ondine, a stakes-placed filly for Bob Baffert, and in fact, Rafael Bejarano, who had ridden Sweet Lulu the first 2 times, took off you to ride Ondine. I'm sure he got sick to his stomach at about the head of the stretch, but talk about this big effort.
Well, this was kind of a last-minute call for me. I really wasn't planning on going in that race, and then I wanted to see what she would do. And of course, Rafael had already given his call away to Bob Baffert, and so they honored that call. I'm not sure if they would have wanted to ride my horse or Bob's, but they stayed on Bob's. Anyway, Joe Ferrer's other rider, Julian Leparoux, was open, and so we decided to let him ride her, and he did a real good job.
First time going 2 turns, she showed natural speed. These are legitimate fractions at Del Mar.
Yes, they are. You know, the track's a little bit speed biased, but, you know, this day we didn't really expect her to be on the lead, but she kind of fell out of there and was right on the lead, so I was pleased to see that Julian went right on with her.
And you had to be pleased as they turn for home. Julian's going to ask her a little bit, and she's going to respond. She's going to spurt away here, and this was a pretty good field.
Very good field, but, you know, we're facing a lot tougher today, and we know that, and we haven't been tested out on the dirt, so we're going to get tested on that. But, I mean, this was a logical race for her to go in and see what she can do. So the race is the test, and it's a big test for us also.
When did you start thinking about the test? Did you nominate her early? Were you thinking about the test from early on?
No, not really. You know, just after last race, we talked about different races, and you know, we nominated her well in advance to the Cotillion at Parks. That race is in September. That's a mile and an 1/8. That's when I decided that I wanted to see if she could run a mile, and we got the riders all confused, but ended up with Julian, which was fine. But you know, that's how all that came about.
The riders, Bejarano and Leparoux, what have they said to you after their respective races on her?
Well, Julian's been honored the last three works, which they gave her breezing at Del Mar. They almost never do that in California. So he's been pleased with her works, but you know, that doesn't translate necessarily to the dirt or you know, running over a dirt racetrack. So Julian thought that she would run well on dirt. As a matter of fact, he said that he thought she would run better. So that's why we're here.
All right, all 3 races have come on synthetic at Hollywood and at Del Mar. Has she ever trained on dirt?
Yes, she trained on dirt early in her career at Pleasanton Racetrack when I had all my 2-year-olds over there, and then she proceeded to come in to Golden Gate and then down at Hollywood on the synthetic tracks. But she trained well on dirt, so I'm hoping that she'll transfer her synthetic over to the dirt and run just as well.
Now, she arrived here at Saratoga earlier in the week. How has she trained over this racetrack?
A little tentative the first day. We just jogged her the first day. The second day, she was looking around a little bit. And yesterday, she had a good gallop. And the day before, she galloped and stood in the gate. So we've done all of our schooling with her, and it's going to be up to her and Julian now.
She's cutting back from a 2-turn mile to 7/8 around 1 turn. Any concerns for you about that?
I'm always concerned about about everything. I think most trainers are, and you know, if there's something to worry about, we always worry about it. So, you know, I think that she'll do that just fine. You know, if I drew a real inside post, I'd be a little more worried. But I think being out in the 5 post, I think that Julian should be able to pick the part of the racetrack that he wants to be in and ride her from there.
Is she of enough quality to be very competitive in this Grade 1 test?
I think that she is. You know, otherwise I wouldn't have come all the way out here. And you know, we know that Saratoga is a tough place to win a race. And but we wanted to give it a try. And if you're not trying, or if you're not in the race, you have a chance to win it.
Well, you won a big race earlier this year when you won the Met Mile with Sahara Sky. We're going to take a look at him turning for home, rallying down the center of the track to nail cross traffic, and we know how good cross traffic is. Jerry, talk about this big win.
Okay, you know, Joel rode this horse in the Carter, and you know, he might have misjudged the pace a little bit, but he didn't know the horse that well. This time, I and my partner thought that he would ride him better, and he timed it a little better, and ended up getting up in the last few jumps to beat Todd's horse. It was very close, and we didn't really know if we won or not, but they hung our number up, and so we got the win. Big win for me. Yeah. Big win for the horse, the Met Mile. Very important race.
We were hoping to see him here next Saturday in the Forgo, but that's not going to happen, is it?
No, you know, unfortunately, you know, as the summer goes on, he doesn't really train that well. So I should have put him out about a month ago and let him relax a little bit. I just put him out last week. I'm going to leave him out for 30 days and bring him back in. You know, we wanted to run the Breeders' Cup. If we miss that, then so be it. We'll try to campaign him next year, but we'll have him ready for a couple races at Santa Anita, a track that he's run real well on.
And finally, earlier this year, you had a nice 3-year-old, Hear the Ghost, on the Derby Trail. You won the stakes at Santa Anita, and then he got injured. How's he doing?
Doing very well. I also, he had a little line in his knee, which we didn't want to take a chance and run him. I actually think he could have run in one of the big races there at Santa Anita, but we decided to be conservative, give him the time, take him off the Derby Trail, gave him a few months out up at Pegasus Training Center in Seattle, where we send a lot of horses, and now I just brought him back in, as a matter of fact, 2 days ago.
Doing well?
Seems like he's doing well.
Well, we'll look forward to him coming back. We're really going to look forward to Sweet Lulu in this afternoon's test. Jerry, we want to thank you, as always, for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch. Now, I know you're leaving town in the morning, but you can either go tonight or you can give this to your assistant. This is a $100 gift card for Jacob and Anthony's American Grill at 38 High Rock Avenue, right here in downtown Saratoga, for lunch or dinner. Please take it on us and enjoy it. And thank you so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch.
My pleasure.
Jerry Hollendorfer, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, a couple of things before we leave you. Orb will be ridden by Jose Lescano this afternoon in the Travers. Obviously, he's doing well. And Chad Brown in the test for My Happy Face will be using Mike Smith. Time to thank all the folks who helped get this week's show on the air. Here at Saratoga, our associate producer, Julie Hoxie and Dan Hayes and Brian Dorenzo. Back in the control room in Schenectady, Pat Peretta directed. Thank you to this morning's guests, Jerry Hollendorfer, Todd Pletcher, Karen McLaughlin, and Shug McGahee. And thanks to our sponsors, Embrace the Race, the apparel for the horse racing lifestyle, available at the Museum of Racing, at their new store at 12 Circular Street, right here in Saratoga, and online at embracetherace.com. And by Parting Glass Racing, Saratoga's original racing partnership. Tom Gallo is going to join us next week. Visit them on the web at partingglassracing.com. And our guest segments have been sponsored by Jacob and Anthony's American Grill, 38 High Rock Avenue, here in Saratoga. Ladies and gentlemen, a reminder, first post for this afternoon's 14 race card is at 11:35. The Travers, race number 12, approximate post of 5:46. Have a wonderful Travers Day. It is absolutely beautiful here on the backstretch of Saratoga. Have a great Travers weekend and a wonderful upcoming week. And from all of us here at Down the Stretch, we'll see you next week.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.